You ready to do this, Matt?
Ready am I. Punch it, Chewie.
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton. My co-pilot is Matt Shaw. We're two nerds that just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode 180. We release every Thursday morning. You can find us on the website, fortofnerd.com. We have links to iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by and relax a while. If you like what you're hearing, you can hit that subscribe button, and you can get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Matt, did you know that the Super Friends, if they're listening for the first time, they can subscribe?
What?
Do it.
And it will automatically download?
I promise you, you will only regret it 50% of the time.
Yeah, that's not bad. I do a lot of things that I regret way more often than 50%.
That is true. Matt, what is going on? How was your regret-filled week? Or regret not filled week? I don't know. Whatever. What's going on?
It was a good week. It was a good week. We had actually quite a bit of stuff going on. It was a lot of fun. So, yeah.
Do tell.
Well, I'm going to. So, here in Texas, things began to open up this weekend.
Wait, where again?
Here in Texas.
The stars are bright and big at night.
Well, you almost got the words right.
Son of a dang it.
Deep in the heart of Texas is the next phrase, but neither here nor there. You do that at every Houston Astros game growing up. Everyone, that's one of the songs to sing. Anyway, neither here nor there. Okay, like I said. All right. So this weekend, things began to open up, which was exciting for us as we are not super risk averse as individuals. And we went to Buc-ee's on Friday, which Buc-ee's has been open. I mean, they've somehow found a way to be exempt from pretty much everything. So we went to Buc-ee's.
Well, they sell gas there, right?
There is gas.
So that's probably why they stayed open.
It's crazy. I was surprised that the inside was open, and man, it was. You wouldn't expect anything was going on. It was probably 50% people were in masks, 50% not, and they had all the food, the hot food ready. You could order it just like you used to. I mean, it was a busy day at Buc-ee's, so that was a lot of fun just to get out and feel normal and eat some delicious Buc-ee's foods. We actually drove past the outlet mall, which it also opened up this weekend.
Okay.
There weren't a whole lot of stores that were open. I mean, this is like the biggest outlet mall you can possibly think of. It has literally every store. And there weren't that many that were open at the time. A lot of the signs on the doors were talking about them opening, in the coming days or in the coming weeks. We never got out of the car. We just kind of drove around because we were curious. And then we hopped back in the car and made reservations to go out to eat. So we went out to eat at an Italian restaurant here in San Antonio, Texas. And it was fun. It was a little weird to kind of be back. It was, I don't know. I know that everyone's going to experience this when they do like their little hurdles, right? There's these little hurdles that we have to get over. Sure, yeah. And you got to take it at your own pace, obviously. And I was ready to go out to eat, but it didn't change the fact that it felt weird. And I'm like hyper aware of the hygiene of everything happening around me. And anyway, it was interesting. It was interesting. It was a lot of fun. It was good to just kind of sit down and enjoy and again, feel a little bit normal, but at the same time, it wasn't all back.
Sure. So it's going to take a while.
Weird. It was weird.
Yeah.
But that was fun. And then, man, this is action-packed weekend. So that was Friday. And then Saturday, we bought...
all that on Friday?
All that on Friday.
Look at
I worked like half a day. And then we bought tickets to the San Antonio drive-through zoo. And there isn't a drive-through zoo. The zoo allowed you to drive through it.
Ooh,
so
weird.
they were already configured in such a way that was wide enough that you could drive your car through. And they made a path through the zoo. The only things you couldn't get to were like the elephants, the rhinos, and the giraffes. But pretty much everything else you could get to. All these monkeys and lions and tigers and all that stuff. So we bought tickets earlier in the week. And y'all, it was one of the worst experiences we've ever had as a family.
Worst?
We waited. It opens at 10, so we got there at 10.
Okay.
We waited for 3 hours
Ooh.
in our car. And I thought, this is the worst experience. Every time if you're getting close, you just literally turn a corner and you cry because it's another massive parking lot of cars. And I'm tweeting at the people at San Antonio Zoo. I'm talking on Facebook like, this is ridiculous. Y'all way oversold. And that was at 10 a.m. So we didn't leave. Like our whole experience ended at 2. So then we had to drive through the zoo and we did all that. And Emmy and Lando were troopers. They were so good. But it broke Jessie, just broke her. At like hour 3, she was like, oh my gosh, I will never come back again. It was really, really rough.
I think there's some of that, like, as things are starting to open up just a little bit in certain places of the U.S., right? Because we know this isn't happening like everywhere in the U.S. or everywhere in the world, but like certain places are starting to open. People kind of have that cabin fever, and so like they kind of think, oh, this is open, we should go do this since now it's open. We got to get out of the house, but like everyone else has that same thought too because everyone else wants to get out of their houses,
right?
And so it just ends up causing like a massive sea of humanity in one place.
Yeah.
Or multiple places, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree. And I saw it firsthand in San Antonio. And the frustrating thing was they said they had limited tickets, right? And you had to buy them beforehand online, which I did. And honestly, by the time we left and were able to get out, the line was minimum 4.5 or 5 hours from what I was seeing. So everyone who had their window down as I was driving back, I was letting them know, hey, you've got 4 hours. And this single mom with 2 kids was like, thank you so much. We're out of here. Yeah. And these other people, I was like, you're at 4.5 hours. And they were like, oh my gosh, are you serious? So it was a really bad experience, just to be straight up. So that was fun. Anyway.
So I'm curious, like, did you do stuff with the kids to keep them like entertained prior to getting into the zoo?
So Emmy's pretty good. She likes to be in the car. So she was not a problem at all. Maybe after like an hour, she was kind of getting bored. And so we let her watch like a movie on one of our phones. Lando was just good. He was just chill. Just a good kid. He's just eating and sleeping.
Nice.
Which doesn't happen very often. So we're very, very happy. But so that was long and stupid and stuff. And then my parents put their house on the market because they came back and now they're doing that whole thing.
Yeah.
It sold today, y'all.
Ooh, wow,
it sold
that's fast.
For over the asking price, which was already steep. They already put their ask at higher than what they bought it for. So anyway, that obviously hasn't killed the housing market here in Texas for whatever reason. So anyway, that was great and had a celebratory dinner tonight. So they're out of here by the end of the month.
Wow.
Again. No, I mean, we already knew that was coming. Yeah. They were already going to go back to Washington, so whatever.
Right.
Anyway.
Huh.
That was
good for them. That's awesome. Like that's good news.
Yes, very good news. Yeah, man, that was our weekend. It was busy, and then during the week we just did regular stuff like Animal Crossing and movies.
Right. Yeah. How's your Animal Crossing island coming?
It's good, man. 5 stars.
5 stars. Literally. I've got my 5-star as well. However, I came up with a new idea, and I'll tell you this, and then I'll transition kind of into my week. But I decided to set up a second player on my Switch. And then I basically went to the island and started the first processes. And then I used my main player to float the, like, whatever it is, 5.5 million bells you need to pay off a fully upgraded house. Because I'm going to turn that second house and I'm going to have to like get all this stuff on my main character, drop it outside, switch to my other one. I'm going to make that my restaurant. Because right now I have this like area kind of like set aside. It's like a pizza / barbecue, like little restaurant with like a little patio, but it kind of feels more like a shop you'd find, not a shop, like a pop-up you'd find like on a corner somewhere.
Yeah.
And then there's like a little like music area. No. I'm going whole hog.
That's awesome.
I'm taking a full house. The basement's going to be the kitchen. The main room is going to be like a waiting room / like little like lounge area. And then the 3 rooms on the main level are going to be like like areas to like sit and eat, and then upstairs I may try to make it into like a sports bar, kind of like a little more casual kind of a place. And I got that idea after watching some video. I went, this is genius. I can buy back a whole lot of my land that I was using for this thing, and then purpose a house for it, and then have a whole bunch of area. Because Matt, I want to put in a baseball field.
I know you do.
I want to get a baseball field in, and I've been talking about like how like in the outfield I can put in like waterfalls and some shrubs and stuff to kind of like give it that baseball field, and maybe put some trees like apple or cherry trees behind it to feel like, hey, you knock it out like into the woods, you like that's it, home run. So
cool.
Yeah, so I've been doing some of that this last week and over the weekend. I did a bunch of work actually over the weekend. We're moving a whole lot of our files for my company to align our file structure with our parent company's file structure. And so I needed to get a lot of the users out of active projects. And so I was doing that, late nights this last week, and then a bunch over the weekend. And I'm to the point now where all the active stuff is moved, so I can keep moving all the non-active stuff to archives like during the day. So hopefully I can kind of just keep chugging along. But that took up a fair chunk of my weekend. We did watch the Parks and Rec special this last week. That was so funny.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I mean, obviously it's not going to be a full episode in the way that you would normally think of one of those episodes, but I thought they did it really, really well, and it was really funny, and they kind of hit a lot of like little highlights and key players from the series and gave everyone like some spotlight moments, and I thought it was really good. We also watched a Goonies reunion that, what's his name? Oh, I'm going to forget his name. The guy plays Olaf.
Neil Patrick Harris?
No, Olaf, man. What's his name? He was also in the Book of Mormon musical.
Olaf.
He's
Josh Gad.
Josh Gad, yes. Josh Gad.
Count Olaf, by the way, is who I was thinking of. And yes, Neil Patrick Harris plays Count Olaf. So anyone out there thinking I'm stupid, y'all are stupid. It ain't me.
Listen, Matt's just a simple guy. He said it before, but he knows what he's talking about.
I know my Olafs. Anyway,
Olaf
Josh
from
Gad.
Frozen, Josh Gad. Josh Gad hosted a reunion with the entire cast of the Goonies, including director Richard Donner, who's 90 now, Steven Spielberg, who was executive producer, Chris Columbus, who is the writer for that, who's gone on to produce a whole bunch of like Harry Potter movies and a bunch of other stuff. It was a lot of fun. It really was. So we've just been kind of like watching things, but then today, the day we record, is Star Wars Day. It's May the 4th. Mm-hmm. So to all of you super friends, May the 4th be with you. But we did a thing, Matt. We decided to start watching The Mandalorian again with the boys.
Nice.
And they kind of, hemmed and hawed. They're like, we don't want to watch. And then I turned it on. And the opening scene, that kind of fight scene in that cantina, when he pulls him back through and it closes on him and chops him in half, they kind of went, oh, did it chop him in half? I went, yep. And they go, whoa. And they were hooked. And so we just finished the 3rd episode, The Sin. The 2nd episode was The Child. So we've watched 3 episodes now with them. And our plan is this week, after work, after dinner, we're going to watch at least an episode, maybe an episode or 2, and watch The Mandalorian with them. And then for dinner, we didn't have the normal run-of-the-mill dinner. No. We had Rancor nuggets. We had goldenrod corn. We had Mandalorian oranges, and we had blue milk. I literally put blue food coloring in milk and mixed it up. So everything else was like stuff that like we would normally eat. But it was like, I would have loved to have said like, I thought of, stuff a month ago to start planning to do a big Star Wars Day celebration. We didn't. We wore Star Wars shirts today, and we watched The Mandalorian, and then I found a way to take existing food we had in the house and give it a Star Wars theme. So Rancor nuggets instead of chicken nuggets. Goldenrod corn was just corn, but Goldenrod, C-3PO, it's yellow.
Yeah.
It works. And then instead of Mandarin oranges, Mandalorian oranges. And then, of course, the blue milk. And we literally did make blue milk. And they thought it was super cool. They're like, oh, this is awesome, Dad. I'm like, yeah, let's not talk about green milk. Still, though. A lot of fun. So it was a good week. I did put in a lot of yard work on Saturday. The weed whacker, the head on it finally broke to the point that I couldn't get the thread to thread back into it. So I had to go buy a universal replacement and do a whole bunch of yard work. And I adjusted the sprinkler heads because I'm trying to make sure that where I've put down all this new grass seed that we're going to get grass to actually pop up. So I'm pretty confident that this year won't be as bad as last year, but definitely still not good. So it's a work in progress, Super Friends. Yeah. It's a work in progress. But yeah, that was my week. That was what happened here in the old Stapleton side of the Fortress of Nerditude.
Very nice.
So Matt, we got to move on. We got to keep this party a rolling.
Let's do it.
We got to kill some Bothans. I think it's your turn to tell us how we're gonna kill them.
Let's go lightsaber in honor of May the 4th.
Awesome, love it. I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, Matt, we are into Rebel Intelligence. What do you have for me this week?
Okay, so let's go to the silliest, I guess.
Oh.
So it has come out today on Star Wars Day. Makes perfect sense.
So
Nicolas Cage has been cast as the Tiger King, Joe Exotic, in a new TV series. Y'all, it's a scripted TV series with Nicolas Cage playing Joe Exotic.
So good.
I am. That's the only thing that I can say about this. I am. And I don't know what I am, but I am. And this is separate from these other things that have kind of been teased and announced. There's been something with what Kate McKinnon, she was going to play Carol Baskin.
Really?
She's gonna play Carol Baskin? Adapted. I mean, these are all kind of things that are mentioned in this article. And then Rob Lowe and Ryan Murphy are supposedly teaming up for another Joe Exotic TV project. But these are separate from what seems to be a more solid source that Nicolas Cage is playing Joe Exotic, and it is going to be written by American Vandal's Dan Lagana.
Okay.
So that's the most information we have. We don't have any other info. It's like I said, obviously it's a scripted series, and we don't know where it's going to air. We don't know kind of what era of Joe Exotic's life this is going to explore. We don't know anything.
The interesting thing is that Netflix documentary or docu-series or whatever they call it came out 6-7 weeks ago.
Yeah. And
the fact that we're already green-lighting series based off that and based off the life of some of these characters, I mean, it's huge. I mean, it's huge. I swear everyone and their dog has seen it or knows enough about it. But the fact that we're already green-lighting projects, wow.
It's crazy. Y'all, it's crazy. And I can imagine a TV show. It has to be a comedy, though. I just can't imagine it being anything other than a comedy. In my opinion, if I were to write a Joe Exotic Tiger King show, it's a comedy. Nicolas Cage doesn't typically do comedy, though. So We'll see.
Yep.
We'll
so,
see.
Speaking of remakes of a sort, I am really excited for this remake I'm going to talk about. So, Battlestar Galactica that came out in like 2004, 2005 was a reimagining of the old like late 1970s, early 80s Battlestar Galactica. And NBC has said that they are going to kind of do a reboot, reimagining of this world once again. It's going to be part of Peacock's upcoming service. And that Michael Leslie is going to be the one that's going to be the primary creative force behind this. Leslie's done stuff for like Little Drummer Girl that was on AMC, and apparently the Assassin's Creed movie.
Okay.
I don't know enough about him, but apparently from quotes from Deadline from Leslie, he says, "I'm beyond excited to take on this iconic and inspirational show. As a lifelong devotee, I know that the possibilities of Battlestar Galactica's world are infinite, and that each iteration has raised the bar for epic and intelligent sci-fi storytelling." So, I mean, he goes on to say, like, it's a dream come true. I just can't wait to share it with the fans, new and old alike. So say we all. Now, I know that no matter what shape this thing's going to take, it's probably going to have a few of the basic tenets of the Battlestar Galactica world, right? It's going to have Cylons, robotic, robots that, have a, highly sophisticated AI, are going to destroy humanity. The remaining part of humanity is going to exist on one ship called the Galactica, and Cylons are going to pose as humans, which has pretty much kind of been a staple, kind of the mainstays of what this series is about. The reboot or the reimagining, which was done by Ronald D. Moore back in the early 2000s, I loved it. It's great. So I am excited for this. However, I don't like the fact that it's going to be locked behind Peacock's paywall.
Yeah.
It's going to be kind of similar to the whole Star Trek stuff. I know we've talked about this before, but we're going to start seeing these things splinter. And unfortunately, it's going to make it hard for those of us that are into pop culture and these big kind of, genres, these big tentpole, things, because we're going to say, well, I can't afford everything. I'm going to have to make choices.
Yeah.
And do I prioritize stuff like the MCU and the Mandalorian and the Star Wars stuff on Disney Plus over Battlestar Galactica? Do I, put the Lord of the Rings stuff that's going to be coming out from Amazon Prime Video over stuff that's going to be streaming, over on CBS with the Star Trek stuff? Like, unfortunately, not everyone's going to be able to afford everything. And right now, everyone's kind of pinching pennies anyway. I don't know when this is going to come out. It doesn't look like it's anytime soon, but I'm saying that I know we're going to get to a point where it's going to be hard to be a fan of so many of the big things because so many of the big things are going to retreat to their corners. So,
well, the good news about Peacock is it's free. That's the
for now. I don't believe that this is the part of me that I don't usually get into much on this show because I'm not usually this guy. This is more your territory where you don't trust business.
I don't trust anybody.
I do not believe Peacock is going to stay free. I believe that they're going to get a bunch of people and then they're going to start charging money.
Yeah, that may be true. We'll have to see. Maybe it'll be free for the first year, and then after that, they'll ask you to pay for it. But you're right.
Right in time for like Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, exactly. Oh gosh.
Yep.
So let's continue down the remake trail, and this is not the direction I expected this to go when I read this week. Is that a teaser enough for you?
Okay, maybe.
All right.
Yes. Tell me more. I'm listening.
Disney loves to make live-action remakes of their animated classics.
Yep.
And we know Mulan has been moved back to July 24th from its March release. We have now received an announcement that their next remake is going to be Hercules.
Yes. Ooh, Hercules, Hercules, Hercules.
Yes. Hercules is an absolute gem of a Disney movie that doesn't, in my opinion, get the representation and love that it deserves.
I agree.
It has like a cult following where people who love it, they love it. And, we're included in that. You guys are included in that. But it gets no real representation when you go to like Disneyland, Disney World, or really in any Disney marketing material, which is a shame. So this is good to see them kind of good faith towards those of us that love the Hercules movie. Now, get this. You're like, okay, that's interesting, right? Cool. How are they going to do that? But wait till you hear who is in charge of directing this movie. The Russo brothers.
Get out.
The Russo brothers are directing Hercules for Disney.
No, stop.
Yes.
Really?
This is real.
Oh my goodness.
This is happening, and it is being written by Dave Callahan. People probably know who that is. I don't know much about Dave. Apparently wrote Expendables.
Oh, okay.
And wrote the script for the upcoming Shang-Chi film for Marvel.
Oh, so he's already got like his foot kind of in the Disney door, so to speak.
Yeah, a little bit there. So this was awesome. Yet I'm hesitant, and let me tell you why I'm hesitant. Because Hercules is iconic for two reasons, and it's obviously the storytelling is incredible, and the story I love. But the other thing is the music.
Oh, yes.
And when I hear the Russo brothers and that it's being penned by somebody who does action mostly, I go, I don't think this is going to be a musical. I think this is going to follow more along the trail of Mulan, where there isn't going to be the music. There will be the music will be woven in. But until I get confirmation that this is going to be a musical or it's going to have the music in it, I don't think it's going to be in it.
I think that would be a disservice to the original, and also to the fact that, like, so I love like Greek mythology stuff. Like you say, hey, we're going to make a new movie about Sparta and the Trojan War. I'm like, I don't care. Don't care who's in it. I want to see it. You want to talk about Odysseus? Done. Like, let's do this thing.
Yeah.
You're remaking the Odyssey? Wonderful. It's part of the reason why I love Oh Brother, Where Art Thou so much. Because it is the story of Odysseus. So Hercules for me is like right in that vein of like, I love that stuff. But then you also have the music, which is so good in there. And there's a lot of stuff that like I'll find myself singing from that versus like Mulan. For me, Super Friends, don't tear me down online. Don't picket my house, with pitchforks and torches. But Mulan to me has one good song. One. Whereas like Hercules for me has a number of really good songs that like I'll sing and like I can get stuck in my head and kind of get going. But the cool thing was like the muses in that movie were like they were black women, and this is in the 90s when you had super groups like En Vogue
Destiny's
and Salt
Child.
and Pepper, Destiny's Child,
Yeah.
right? And they were making this big. There was a lot of black women groups in like R&B. They were kind of transitioning between R&B and kind of pop music that were making huge strides. And they could have, let's be honest, this was if they're basing this back in ancient Greek, they probably could have done this with people not of color as the muses, but they went with muses. With these black women that brought in like not just great music, but kind of that soul gospel sound to it, which could have been like way over the bearing, over the top, like bad, but I thought it was perfect. I thought it was just enough. It gave it the right feel and the right tone. Oh my gosh, if they do not have that included, that will be a travesty to me.
Yeah, and for me, Disney remakes have been kind of hit and miss so far. Some have been really good and surprising, and some have just not really knocked me over. So I'm hesitant at this point for any Disney remake.
Chris Hemsworth. We can have Chris Hemsworth as Hercules.
Amazing. But he replaced Thor with, is that too closely related?
Yes,
Playing
obviously.
gods?
Obviously. But I think he would be amazing. Like, I'm already starting
Not
to
gonna be a musical if he's in it.
I'm starting. He didn't actually do a lot of singing though in that.
Dude, Zac Efron could do it.
Yeah.
He's ripped these days, man.
There's no doubt about that, but I think Chris Hemsworth has that more Greek
I don't
iconic
disagree,
look.
But it's not going to be Chris Hemsworth.
No. I'm also thinking of like who could play what roles, who could like a dream cast, like Danny DeVito's still working actor.
Oh my gosh. How
you could have him play Philatides.
How incredible would that be?
I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh.
Who would you cast as Megara?
I don't know.
I know. I was thinking of that. I'm like,
Because
you have to have equal parts mixture of like bad girl, yet is trying to redeem herself and find that balance, and she's got to be sultry.
Yeah. I don't know.
So good.
I'm very interested. Look, the Russos do action, and
Morgan
they do action
Freeman
with
is Zeus.
Like a little bit of they do action, but
sorry,
the Russos do a lot of like in their work with Arrested Development and Community, some genre bending things as well.
Yeah,
which we know
for sure.
kind of there. So I guess they're not necessarily tied to action, but it's their strength. And that's the reason that they got the jobs with Marvel was the action sequences from Community with the paintball episodes. So it makes me think they're going to stick to action. This is going to be an action movie, and it's going to look sick, and it's going to be amazing. But without the music, bummer. Well, we'll see. They definitely didn't say there's no music. But anyway, that's what we got for Hercules.
All right, so let's get away from that because I'm going to spend way too long dream casting that movie. Because I think it has to be live action, by the way. Last thing, it has to be live action. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So over a year ago, something happened that made me sad. I wasn't going to get on the internet and rant and rave about it, but it did make me sad. The Lego Lord of the Rings games, which is Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit game, were removed from all of the digital stores. Now, if you previously had a physical copy of it, you could still play it. And if you had it downloaded to your system, you could still play it, but like you couldn't go and buy it. If you previously had bought it and downloaded it, but then removed it, you couldn't go back and re-download it, or maybe you only could for a little while. And Warner Brothers pulled it. They didn't really say why. It was kind of this whole thing, and we wondered if there was an issue with licensing or whatever. But apparently, as of just like a day or two ago, you can go on Steam and you can get both Lego Lord of the Rings and Lego The Hobbit, along with all their DLC that's there. Now, for me, I'm not going to go get these games on Steam. I still have my PS3 disc of Lego Lord of the Rings. I would love to see it come onto the PS4 store. That would make my day. The Hobbit games, it's fine. I've got that, but the reason why I love this so much and I'm so excited about this is that the Lego games are always fun. They're little puzzle games. They can be played by children. They can be played by adults. It kind of depends on how deep you want to go into finding all the things. But the Lego Lord of the Rings game that came out on PS3 and Xbox 360 was the first time a Lego game ever used dialogue. Before, they always just kind of like made like little facial gestures, noises, but there was no real dialogue. Even in like the old Star Wars Lego games, it was just kind of like, hey, you're going through the Death Star, and they'd make little noises, and it was cute, but no dialogue. But the Lord of the Rings pulled it dialogue directly from the film, and for me, that added a huge new level.
Yeah.
And I love that game. I've probably played it through 4 or 5 times to completion, doing everything. So if you missed out before or you love it and you want to go back, this is an easy, fun game. Go to Steam, go get it. It's available right now. Who knows if it's going to disappear again. I'm going to hold on to a hope and a prayer that it comes to the PS4 store on PSN. But anyway, totally worth a playthrough.
Very cool.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I never played those games.
You should.
But I might. I don't know, with the Lego Star Wars trilogy or trilogy coming out. The Star
Right.
Wars saga.
Trilogy of trilogies.
I might go do that. Anyway, neither here nor there. All right. The last bit of news that I have is Star Wars related. And this is like over the top exciting. I believe we talked about this as a rumor once before, but it is now confirmed official as of today. Taika Waititi is getting his own Star Wars film. Theatrical release.
Yes.
The whole 9 yards. Confirmed by Lucasfilm. It is happening. And
Bring it on.
Co-writing it with Christy Wilson Cairns, who I guess wrote, I don't know. She's Academy nominated screenwriter. Okay, yes, with Russian Doll co-creator Leslie Headland joining them. Okay, so those two plus Taika Waititi making a brand new Star Wars film.
All right, I like that.
Yeah, this is.
Now, is this going to go directly to Disney Plus, or is this going to be in the theaters?
This is theatrical. No, this is the whole. Theatrical. This is the whole thing. This is a theatrical release. I mean, we talked about this. This is exciting. This is great. Taika Waititi is my favorite director right now. He is just so good. He was so good with what he did in The Mandalorian. That perfect balance of comedy, but not comedy for the sake of the action. But it just, they made sense. It was, I don't know. It's very exciting. I'm a huge fan. So this is good.
So we can say It-Wit. It-Wit. In Taika Waititi, I trust.
Oh my gosh.
It-Wit. I'm sorry.
This is rough, y'all.
I know. Well, here's the reason why I'm coming up with an acronym for this, if you will.
Yeah.
Is because there's a new acronym that's been introduced into nerd and pop culture. SPUMK.
Okay.
SPUMK. Now, if you're sitting at home in quarantine right now, or if you're going to work because you're an essential worker and you hear me say the word SPUMK, it sounds weird. It pronounces weird, but let me tell you what it is. So we know that we have the Sony kind of Spider-Verse of movies, right? They've got Homecoming and Far From Home, and then the Venom movie, and then Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Apparently, Sony Studios is going crazy about people starting to call this the Spider-Verse because they have a movie that literally has Spider-Verse in the name, and they're getting angry because it feels like the brand is being diluted. And so they're going to join the pantheon of big names like the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the DCEU, the DC Extended Universe, with SPUMK. Or in other words, the Sony Pictures universe of Marvel characters. Now, I get the Sony Pictures part, but the universe of Marvel characters, to me, is just a way for them to include the word Marvel in this name for their universe, because they want to highlight it's just not Spider-Man, it's also Spider-Man villains. And Tony Stark appeared in one of our movies, or two of our movies. And we've got Venom, and look, he's a Marvel character too. To me, I just look at this and I go, Sony, the best thing you did for SPUMK was allowing the deal between Sony Pictures and Marvel to take place so Spider-Man could be in Marvel movies. And then Marvel came and helped out, with these other two pictures of yours. But let's be honest, they're Marvel movies, okay? They're Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Written, directed, produced by the MCU. They're Marvel movies. Don't try to cash in on the fact you're not Marvel by using Marvel's name. That just sounds dumb. And SPUMK, trust me, we're going to be saying the Spider-Verse movies. Yep. Oh, the movies in the current Spider-Verse? That's what's going to happen. You put yourself in a bad place, and you came up with a dumb-sounding acronym.
Yes, you did.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be a downer, but SPUMK?
This is so dumb. Sony can't stop being stupid. They
no.
just can't.
Not when it comes to Spider-Man. It's like they know they've got something that's really good, but they also know that they can't handle it, and they don't want to give it all away, so they try to do these things. Listen, Bob Iger, Bobby, you're our friend. Go over there. Tell them to knock off the shenanigans. Just set them straight. Just tell them to knock off the shenanigans. That's all I'm saying, Bobby. Help us out.
Seriously. Pathetic.
Seriously.
I don't understand it. Yeah, good grief,
Spunk.
man.
Spunk.
It's cute, man.
I don't know why, but I feel like an old man sitting on like a porch. Hey, you little spunk! Get out of here! Waving a cane, sipping some lemonade.
Oh, gosh. Hey, you sound like the guy in Up, your favorite Pixar film.
Moving
on.
Sure. Hey, speaking of which, I saw Ratatouille this week. I forgot to tell you that.
And?
I fell asleep the first time we started watching it, so I had to start it over again, basically. And I'm going to say that it's a good movie.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. It's not going to be at the top of my Pixar list.
No.
It's not.
No.
It's watchable. It's enjoyable. There's some good things in there. There's some touching moments in there. But I mean, where Pixar's at now, it's just, they're far beyond that movie. Anyway.
Yep.
But I did watch it this week, though.
Good job.
Yay, look at me. That was the last thing I had. Did you have anything else for Rebel Intelligence?
I'm out.
You are out. All right. So last week we were having a conversation, and we were talking about TV shows that didn't stick the ending. TV shows that, while they may have been a great show, when it came to the finale, they just bombed. And we talked about a few doozies, and we asked the Super Friends, what are shows for you that just did not finish strong, that did not stick the landing, and in some cases maybe just ruined the show for you? And we got a lot of answers. So we're going to go over to email like we always do, and we'll start there, fortofnerd@gmail.com, and we have Peter Christensen. Peter says, Dear Nerds, my son and I have quarantine home haircuts. My wife and daughters have quarantine home hair dye. We're ready for hair care to open in Washington. Good luck with that, Peter, and family. I agree with your guess that mega regional attractions like professional sports, concerts, and amusement parks will be among the last things to reopen. Although we try not to talk about that in this house. My middle child is elbows deep in 90s punk music and has been looking forward to Green Day concert in July, and I doubt it's going to happen.
I've got tickets to that as well. Green Day, Fall Out Boy, and Weezer are doing a tour, and it's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen. But keep them fingers crossed. Maybe a miracle will happen.
We get our money back. That's a good thing. Think about that. We've already paid for the tickets, so good.
Peter goes on to say, hearing the Rebel Intelligence about the way movie cancellations have affected the MCU timeline, I'm so glad that Endgame and Spider-Man Far From Home released on time last summer. That was a satisfying end to the Infinity Saga of movies 1 through 23, and it feels fine to take a pause now. Don't tell that to Disney shareholders, though. You know what? That actually is a really good point, because Far From Home was kind of the denouement to the whole, the whole overarching theme of the first 23 movies, and kind of capped off that current crop of movies really, really well. And we're not getting anything else, and we were supposed to get stuff, but now we're taking a break. I think it's going to help some people that believe in the Marvel fatigue. I mean, I know Caleb Albers isn't one of them, and I'm sure there are other super friends that don't believe that either. But for those people that do feel that way, this is going to feel like much longer of a break. So I think when MCU films do come back, people are going to be even more excited because they're going to feel like they've been without for a little while.
Yeah.
Peter goes on to say, he says, it's nice that the Fortress of Nerditude's circle of life continues. Hakuna Matata, Peter. With you trying to get me to watch Lost and me persuading you to give Avatar another shot. I assume that cycle will continue indefinitely. Most definitely. Some thoughts on bad TV show endings. For How I Met Your Mother, I appreciate what they did with Season 9, the same way I appreciate what they did with Arrested Development Season 4. And by appreciate, I mean recognize the technical execution of a risky choice while not enjoying it nearly as much. I don't think of it as the end of How I Met Your Mother. I think of it as the birth of Cobra Kai. I like the positive spin there. Because I did enjoy the first 2 seasons of Cobra Kai.
Oh, gosh.
That ending of 2.5 Men sounds like Snakes on a Plane of TV endings. I think it sounds amazing, but that's only because I don't care about the show. I agree. Like if you'd watched that whole thing, you would have felt like they were just crapping the bed at the end. And, trying to upset people. Says The Office. I enjoyed the ending. The Office and Parks and Rec are the 2 endings that showed the most love and celebration for their characters. I literally screamed with joy when Steve Carell showed up to be Dwight's best man. I don't have a lot of show endings to comment on because I tend to rewatch shows rather than watch new ones. One that was kind of a letdown was The Pacific, the World War II sister show to Band of Brothers. It followed a few different Marines fighting Japan on various islands in the Western Pacific. It's a fantastic show and meticulously researched based on the memoirs that actual Marines wrote. But after so much buildup and expectation of having to invade the Japanese mainland, the show and the war kind of end abruptly after the atomic bombing of Japan. The characters' lives are wrapped up neatly after the war, but the conflict doesn't follow a normal story arc. But that show is all about how brutal the Pacific theater fighting was and how it wore everyone down. One show with an excellent ending is Friday Night Lights. I won't spoil it, but I will repeat that Eric and Tammy Taylor are the most realistic, good marriage ever shown on TV. Cheers, Peter Christensen. I don't disagree with the Friday Night Lights. I don't disagree with the Eric and Tammy Taylor. I love that ending. I love them as a married couple.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about best endings because Friday Night Lights is like almost number 1 for me. But
we'll do another episode.
Yeah,
we'll do a different episode
later. In a
later.
couple of months, we'll revisit this, and there's some really, really great ones that just felt good.
I do also agree, though, with Peter's assessment of the Pacific. I was really looking forward to that show after Band of Brothers. Band of Brothers was so good, and it felt like it had a really good resolve to the ending. But like in real life, after the U.S. bombed Japan twice, it was over.
Yeah.
That was the end of the war in the Pacific. And so I think if they had done anything else to invent anything to try to, kind of follow a similar narrative arc or something, it just wouldn't have worked.
Right.
But I did like that show, but I do say Band of Brothers was the better of the 2. Anyway, thank you, Peter. Let's go over to Facebook, which, by the way, Facebook has a whole new interface now, and it's kind of weird and freaking me out. Facebook, we are facebook.com/forwardednerd. We got Tim Paulin. He says, Dexter, such a great show for 7 seasons. It was only the reason to subscribe to Showtime. Even though season 8 wasn't great, Michael C. Hall is magnificent throughout. And I have heard a lot of people say that the way
I read a lot about
Dexter ended was not satisfying.
Yep.
Not like horrible, but not satisfying enough. Nathan Noah says Penny Dreadful.
Oh, I've got friends who really like that show.
I've got friends that like it too. I've just never seen it, and so I don't know how they ended that one.
Yeah.
I actually thought it was still kind of going on, but maybe it just barely ended.
Yeah.
So, let's jump over to Twitter at FortofNerd. We've got Mamba Mentality at DSpin67. He says, Sopranos, Marone, Everything Went Black, Game of Thrones. No, the series finale, but not the series finale, but the Night King was killed too easily, considering how the buildup of his arrival was. I mean, the Night King even had a dragon, and it's true, they killed him so quickly. So I'm with you there, D-Spin. Patrick Novacell, Hollywood Bones at Nova Beyond says Lost. No spoilers. I won't. It says, not only was the series finale awful, every single final scene of every single episode was awful. More questions and no answers. I regretfully watched the entire series. I wish I had that time back.
Okay,
Talk
maybe
about
I
a
won't
hot
watch
take.
it.
Ooh.
I started it again. by the way. Well, actually, I watched a
did you?
recap of seasons 1 and 2 because
Okay.
I was like, I'm not doing it again. I know where I left off, so I'm
Okay.
actually in season 3.
Okay. Season 3 was not my favorite season.
It's boring so far.
It was during the writer's strike, I feel, like right around that time, maybe. I think.
Yeah,
And
probably
so-
was because the writer's strike happened, The Office season 4,
Yeah.
which would line up right with when I left on my mission, like right when I left. That makes perfect sense.
So, while Patrick's tweet here back to us hurts me on a lot of levels because I do love Lost, and I think the show was really good kind of throughout. It was designed to be a show that would give you some breadcrumbs. It's J.J. Abrams, right? Give you some breadcrumbs, give you more questions, and then not get to them. And like always kind of have you like guessing where you're at. But when they do get to the finale, I know a lot of people said it just wasn't as fulfilling. Like it wasn't horrible for some people. Some people thought it was. A lot of people didn't, but they said it just wasn't enough. Like it just wasn't a very good resolve. But to say that every single finish to every single episode, Patrick just really did not like that series altogether.
No, that's tough. That ending was so bad. Actually, everything about it was so bad at the end. Anyway.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Mike BC at Minister Mike BC says House of Cards. Final episode had more questions than answers. Now, I remember watching a few of those seasons, and I don't ever feel like that was a show where like they were trying to give you more questions than answers necessarily, but tell a story. So if they ended that show with like a whole bunch of questions, that would feel frustrating, but it would also feel maybe out of character.
Yeah.
So anyway, Delvin Cox at Delvin_Cox says Game of Thrones, Lost, and Dexter are the ones that immediately come to mind.
Yeah.
Not
Common.
too surprising. Common.
Yeah.
There. John at Sir John 11 says Game of Thrones and Lost are my most notable.
Oh, man.
Mike Putnam at Putty2773 says Dexter absolutely ruined an amazing series.
Oh, gosh.
And then Benjamin Tricroci at Btron3030 says How I Met Your Mother was the biggest waste of time. Oh, hey, Mom, your mom died, so anyway.
Yeah, it sucked, y'all. I'm so glad somebody else said it. Good grief. I got more and more mad now.
All right, let's go over to Instagram. We've got Dantes_Belmont. He says, my hands down Game of Thrones, my biggest problem is the lack of consistency on its internal world logic on the entire last season. You have one episode where a big crossbow on a boat can kill a dragon and makes the riders retreat and abandon the fleet. The next episode, you have the said dragon and rider destroy an entire fortified position of said giant scorpion crossbows. Did the dragons level up and suddenly they can maneuver hundreds of giant bolts, but inexplicably avoid one? That's just one example. You can tell the lack of source material, rush, crunch, among other things, clearly affected the storylines in the series. For this, the last season of Game of Thrones will be ever remembered as one of the biggest letdowns in my book. And that is so true. And I think I kind of hinted to that, but Bernabe here, Mr. Dantes_Belmont, puts it really well when he says that they really ignore the internal world logic. Because I remember, like, there was like a thing where it's like we saw them take like 3 days to get somewhere up north of the wall, like long, hard days of riding. And then something big happens, and then they send one person running back, and they make it in like a 24-hour period. And you kind of went, wait a minute. Or, hey, it took us months to move this far north, but now we're going south, and all of a sudden we covered that space in like 3 days. There was a lot of things in that last season that they ignored the internal world logic, like the rules they kind of set forth. And it's like, are these people time traveling now? Are they teleporting? Like, okay, I get it. You've got dragons. So, you know, if you got on a dragon, you could fly across maybe half the continent in a day, or maybe a day and a half, 2 days, sure. But you're marching an entire army south. How did they make it that far south in 3 days when prior it took them 3 months. Doesn't make any sense.
Annoying.
I'm going to get off my soapbox here. Super Friends, thank you so much for your answers this week. I think we got most of them in there. We appreciate your time and effort to join with us and commiserate TV shows that were beloved, but then just blah right at the end and just destroyed a possible good ending. You know what I'm surprised no one brought up? And maybe this is just because we don't have that much of an older crowd. No one talked about Quantum Leap. And I was really looking forward to someone talking about that, and because it's not going to be on the top of my list, but it's one of those shows I remember watching as like, a kid, and remember thinking like, is Sam Beckett ever going to get home? Is he going to leap home? And then they never ended it. They never, I don't know. That's a show that I could see being redone in a way, but I don't know. Maybe not. So
okay. I don't know.
Anyway, Matt, before I really go off the deep end here, how can the Super Friends help us out this week?
So this week, as usual, listen like you're listening now. Subscribe like I know you did, because it's so much easier to listen every week when you just open up on Thursday and there we are in your ear holes. Just listen to us. And then always, like you did this week, come out in full force with your opinions on the question of the week. Tell us what you think. We want to know. We will talk about it, and you will hear yours read aloud by Spencer Stapleton. How lucky you are. So yeah, do all the things that you always do. And then this week, if you can, if you've got one, jump into a swimming pool for me, because we don't, and ours is closed for our neighborhood. So jump into a pool. I wish we could. If it's hot, I guess, ? It's blazing hot here, so...
Yeah, today was like 64 degrees was the high here.
Oh, yeah, it's perfect. Jump into a freaking pool.
Yeah, probably not.
All right, fine. If you're in the South, y'all know what I'm saying. Jump into a pool. Oh,
that sounds
it feels
good.
So nice.
By the way, Jackson keeps telling us we need to sell our house and get a house with a pool. And we keep reminding him that that's not very popular here in the state of Utah with how cold it gets and how short our summers are. And so he says, well, let's just sell the house and move and go somewhere where they have pools. So, I don't know, Texas, Florida, maybe?
Let's get a jump on that, that Florida thing.
Or maybe we just move to Hawaii.
There you go. Your whole freaking island is a pool.
Yeah, forget the pool. You got an ocean.
Yeah.
It's a better idea. I like that idea. Anyway, So, Matt, I don't remember. You and I talked about this a little while ago. Did you ever end up renting the Trolls World Tour to watch at home with Emmy?
Did not.
Okay. We did. We, in a moment of weakness, because typically I'm like, let's wait. It'll come out on digital, then let's buy it.
Yeah.
In a moment of weakness, we popped down the $20 and we rented it. And you had it for like 48 hours. And I think my kids watched it maybe 3 times. And they're still talking about this movie. I think partially also because we stopped through like a McDonald's drive-thru like once or twice in the last 6 weeks, and when we did, they were giving out little Trolls dolls to kind of coincide with when the movie was supposed to hit theaters.
Yeah,
and they're telling me like this troll belongs to this clan or this group or this genre of subspecies, this genus of trolldom. I don't know, whatever. Like they're getting into this thing. I'm like, okay. And they keep looking at me like, Daddy, don't you know what we're talking about? And I have to remind them, son, I did not watch this movie with you.
Yeah.
I was working. You were watching it when I was working. But this movie at $20 a pop for a rental has now apparently grossed something like over $100 million.
Oh my gosh.
Let me repeat that. Grossed $100 million in like the first 3 weeks of its release, which is interesting because I did a little research here. That is more money than the entire theatrical gross that the first Trolls movie did. Now, we have some things probably playing into that, right? Everyone's been stuck at home for a while.
Yeah.
There's no new movies in theaters.
Yep.
And this is very family friendly, and it's going to have music, and it's going to be easy for people to digest, right?
Right.
If this was like, let's say the first Deadpool movie came out right now during this, would it make money? Yes. Would it make a lot of money? Probably. But is it going to be watched by as many people? Probably not, because it's not going to be really appropriate for small children. Families aren't going to gather around with a big bucket of popcorn to watch Deadpool if they've got a 4-year-old. Yeah. I hope. Okay?
Right. Oh,
I
gosh.
hope. But Trolls World Tour apparently $100 million in its first 3 weeks. So, huge success, right? Universal Studios has come out and made a statement that they said, like, hey, we're glad we were able to do this, that we're able to, something like to the effects like that we're able to release this as a digital first movie, and that, the normal way we do these things is we release movies in the theater and then we release them digitally later, and there's a window, but it might be something we may consider doing again down the road, of doing like a simultaneous release or whatever. Now, that comment apparently has angered the fine folks that work for the AMC theater chain, because they are refusing, and I think we talked about this last week, they're refusing to show any Universal Studios pictures going forward, just based off that comment alone.
It's crazy.
Crazy, right? So I want to ask you a couple questions, and I think this is worth talking about. Do you think that this denial of we're not going to show anything Universal is an overreaction, first of all, or do you think this is an absolutely measured, perfect reaction to that comment?
So, depends on who you ask. I think they did it as a measured reaction and calculated so that Universal would have to walk back some of what they were saying.
Okay.
But,
which hasn't happened yet.
And I think this is going to backfire on them, because this is a massive overreaction. Whether it's calculated or not, it's an overreaction either way. I think they thought we're going to be, tricky and reverse psychology, whatever they were thinking. But this turned out to be an overreaction either way. This is so stupid. Because for me, this exposed AMC as being threatened and vulnerable and scared of what is coming for them. And to me, you just showed the kinks in your armor. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
Why would you do that? No one else is freaking out. Like, this is a pandemic. This is not the norm.
Or at least no one else is freaking out and talking about it.
Right. Yeah. Like, what are you doing? So this was an awful move by AMC. So stupid, in my opinion. So, yes, I think it was both. Honestly, I think it was both. I think that they inadvertently exposed themselves. I don't know. What do you think?
I definitely think that it was a measured response. And I think that it wasn't an overreaction. Although I really question, it's like in politics, and I'm not getting into I'm not going to wade too deeply here, super friends, but it's like in politics when you have two sides, two political parties arguing, and one has the advantage, and then they say, instead of finding a way, we're going to take the nuclear option and we're going to change the rule enough that we don't need the other side at all. We can jam through any legislation, make any changes to rules we want, and just hit you with a nuke and you're done. I kind of feel that this is AMC's pulling out the nuclear option, saying, we're just going to deny Universal Pictures altogether. The problem is this, in my opinion. If you don't stick to your guns, if you don't follow through, the studios are going to see that, oh, we can push further, we can get more leverage, because you're not going to follow through on any of your threats, right? It's like when you make an empty threat to a child, right? Like, if you don't eat that bacon,
right,
you're going to go to bed early, and then they don't eat bacon, and then you just don't have the heart to send them to bed early. Then the kid knows it can get away with whatever it wants because you're not going to follow through.
Right.
I think this, on AMC's part, if they don't stick to it and they cave, it's bad for them. Also, I think it's bad for them that they went that far. Instead of reprimanding, instead of saying like, hey, we're gonna, because you're willing, you're thinking about this, we're gonna put a 2-month moratorium. So, because we know that these movies are needing to start getting out again, right? People want theaters eventually to open back up again and get to a place where the movies can start being released. If you said, hey, by the way, you've been shut out now for, let's say, 6 months, and now we're going to extend it at our theaters another 2 months, that would hurt Universal. It would hurt them enough that they would want to walk it back some and say, okay, look, we haven't been making money for 6 months, but going the full way, you got to think people at Universal are going to think, hey, we can call their bluff. They're bluffing. Because here's something I think a lot of us know, or maybe don't. Movie theaters, Matt, do not make their money on ticket sales.
Right.
They don't. They actually make very little money on ticket sales. What they do make money in is concessions, popcorn, those drinks. You know that drink you pay $3.50 for, $4.50 for? You know it costs them like 5 cents.
Right.
The markup is huge. The popcorn is dirt cheap.
Yeah.
And you pay $7.50 for a large bucket of popcorn with a little bit of butter on it. They make their bread and butter is concessions. Everything is upsold. Like, they put airports to shame with how bad they raise prices. Yeah. So they're worried. They're concerned that if Universal Pictures, and not just Universal, but if Sony Pictures, Disney, any, Columbia, whatever, right? You pick a movie studio. If they start going with this whole like vertical integration, we've got our own streaming platforms, they're worried that they're going to be out of business. They're not going to be able to sell their overpriced popcorn because less big movies are going to be coming to the theater.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what you think. Do you think that this is something that could potentially impact not just AMC, but impact the entire movie theater business in the U.S.?
Yeah, absolutely it could. Look, as now an aging adult in my 31 years of life, I don't get to the movie theater often, and if I had the option of streaming a movie into my home, I would. And here's where I stand on this. And there's a whole lot of discussions that are going to go into this. But look, I've got a theater room. I've got a 75-inch 4K HDR TV with 5.1 Dolby Digital surround sound. I've got 3 theater chairs. I can make great popcorn. I have a popcorn maker. Look, I can watch a movie and enjoy the crap out of it in that room. I don't need to go to a theater for the sound, and oftentimes the picture is better on my screen.
Sure, yeah.
Here's where the difference comes in with movie theaters is the experience of enjoying it with other people.
Yes.
And the experience of having a night out. And AMC, from my experience with AMC, we don't have AMC in San Antonio. We don't have any in the whole city. I think maybe there's one at the Alamo, actually, area. But I don't go. I'm going, now that I'm getting older, I'm going and I'm enjoying movie theaters that give me an option outside of just walking into a movie theater, going to a concession stand and sitting down. I can do that at home. I'm looking at places that are innovating, like I've talked about this place a million times, Alamo Drafthouse.
Right.
Where I can go to a movie and there's a waiter that like comes by and I can get way cooler stuff, creme brulee French toast and one of the best burgers in San Antonio while I'm just sitting there enjoying a movie. And I don't ever have to get up. If I want more popcorn, I just raise my little flag. I don't have to get up. Somebody's got to leave. Who's it going to be? Who's going to need a popcorn refiller? You don't have to worry about any of that. So I think AMC needs to be worried. I think traditional movie theaters need to be worried that don't want to upgrade or pay for upgrading because people are just not going to go to those if the option is to stay at home or to go to a different theater.
So the interesting thing is that AMC has spent a lot of money in upgrading. They have their what they call AMC A-list, like Stubbs theater. Basically, it's kind of similar to the old movie club. Oh gosh, I can't think of what it's called off the top of my head now. We talked about it a gazillion times on this podcast. Basically, I pay $20 a month, and I can go see 3 movies a week.
Oh, yeah.
And they're with this A-list, but I can also order food on the app, and I can say, I want, the pepperoni pizza or the nachos or the hot dog or the popcorn or the drinks or the candy or the giant pickle or whatever I want to order, and then put in my seat number, and they come and deliver it to me. So I don't actually have...
During the movie?
During the movie. You can schedule when you want it. So I can say, I want it to be 10 minutes before the movie.
Yeah, but that sounds terrible.
Movie starts.
I don't want anybody pulling their phone out in the middle of a movie.
So most people are going to do this prior to the movie starting.
Maybe.
But, right.
Putting too much faith in humanity.
But
it's a good idea. I like that idea, too.
I've done it a number of times. I mean, every time we go, Bree and I are like, okay, let's go. And as we're driving over to the theater, I'll hand it to her, and she'll put in the popcorn and the butter and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And then she says, when do you want it delivered? I said, 10 minutes after the start time. Because I know that's like going to be middle of the way through the trailers or maybe near the end of the trailers. So AMC has put money in. They have, like, at least here in our area, they've upgraded their theaters. They've got all these reclining chairs now. They're leather. I mean, they've done a lot. And so I think for them, obviously, they're worried. I also think that they're probably not the only one. I think there's a lot of movie theater chains that are worried. Here's the thing, though. The movie studios are using the cover of the coronavirus right now, I think, as a way to do a test balloon of this idea of what if we were to release it to rent at home during the same time it's in the movie theater. Now, typically there is an agreement between the studios and the theaters that say, like, we're going to give you a 3-month window to play it, right?
Yep.
I think they're using the cover of the coronavirus as a test balloon case to see, could we do this? Because like we said, Disney has Disney Plus. NBC, which owns Universal, which is owned by Comcast, they're going to have Peacock. Could they not just stream those movies as rentals on the Peacock service down the road? Right? Like, there are ways that they could look for that vertical integration, right? Like, why take it somewhere else? We could do it here. My question to you is, do you think that this would even be a possible thing we would have seen if the coronavirus hadn't forced all of us into our homes?
Here's the thing with the perfect storm with Trolls World Tour, and why I don't know that it's the best example of people should be afraid. It's a kids movie.
Yep.
And the opportunity to watch it at home, 150,000 billion times more convenient than taking your kids to a movie theater. Because Emmy is just not at an age where I'm interested in taking her to a movie theater.
Sure, yes.
And there are probably, maybe half of those who purchased tickets would not have gone to a theater either way to take them to see Trolls World Tour. So it's a kids movie during a pandemic. So that's why I don't know that it's the best example
I thought that too.
For what the future is. I think it just was the perfect storm.
Right.
It just worked.
Because usually in this scenario, and my wife and I, Brita and I, had this conversation. She said, should we rent it? The kids are going to want it because they liked the first movie, but we didn't take the kids to go see the first movie in the theater. Right. We waited until it was, a couple months later?
Yeah.
And then we went and we bought it for about $20. And I own a digital copy of it. So why would I want to rent it for $20 when I probably would just wait? Now, we ended up going through and doing it because, yes, the coronavirus, and we're stuck in the house, and it was something different and a way to kind of break up the monotony of all that hardcore dance that has gotten to be a little bit... Sorry. I'm just teasing.
Good gosh.
Old Fresh Prince of Bel-Air song there. No, but the reality is we we wanted something just to kind of give us a little bit of a different feel. Otherwise, if this hadn't happened, we would not have taken the kids to go see it in the theater. I would have bought it for $20, 5 months, 6 months, a year, whenever it came out later. Yep. And I would have said, hey kids, look, we got this. And they would have been excited to see it. They wouldn't have known the difference that they missed it in the theater.
Right.
So I think that AMC and other theaters, I think they should be a little afraid, because I think that the ability to do this is coming down the pipe. I don't think it's immediate. I don't think we're going to see a huge shift immediately this direction. But I feel like their measured response was measured, but I think it was a complete overreaction at the same time. I think if they would have just taken a step back and just kind of like chilled out and let things see how they shake out, I think that would have been better for them.
I agree. That was exactly, it's both. It's both an overreaction and a calculated response that's kind of blown up in their face, I think. And it's interesting, because there are always going to, if you want to hit everybody, then releasing on digital and in the theater is the best option.
Sure. Yeah.
That's the reality, obviously. And how much more benefit, I mean, this is what the studios are trying to figure out. How much benefit is there in just doing it in the theater? Obviously, there's not that much benefit for a kids movie.
Right.
I think kids movies are where you would make money all the time. Not necessarily just during a pandemic, but like, I would love to, if Frozen 2, for example, had been released digitally at the same time that it was in the theaters, I 100% would have paid for that to watch it at home with Emmy. There's no way I'm taking her to a theater still. I just am not interested. She's way too opinionated. Not going to do it.
Let me ask you this,
I would have done
though.
it there.
Like, you talk about this movie the way back.
So great.
And you love that movie. If that movie had been released in theaters and at home at the same time, and you could have spent, let's say, I don't know, $15 to get a ticket to go see in the theater, or spent $20 to see it at home, which would you have chosen? Or would you have taken the third option and just said, I'll wait 2 months at best, because it's going to be a smaller movie that's not going to be, around for the next 5 months in theaters, and then pay $15 or $20 just to rent it, and then I can watch it however many times I want for or buy it for $20 for basically the same price as going and seeing the theater.
Yeah, so this is where, I mean, at that point in my life, I was single and hanging out in college, so I went to see a movie like twice a freaking week. I didn't care. But I just am saying, as a married adult man with kids, and in a new area to us ish, we don't have a lot of trusted babysitters. Like, I'm just speaking for us. I think we would see a lot more movies, and I would pay $20 to watch, for example, Quiet Place 2. If that were to come out digitally, I would rent it in a heartbeat at home rather than going to the theater. And it's just because it's just not convenient for me to go to the theater right now.
I think
it's just interesting. You have to think about who's your audience.
Yes.
And I think their audience is young families, and not just for kids, but for parents too. That's going to be your audience. Maybe old people too, who don't want to go to a theater. Your audience is not like 50-year-olds. They're going to go to a theater. And your audience is not college kids. They're going to go to a theater, and it's not teenagers.
It's date night, man.
It's
I took lots of girls out to hey, let's go do something affordable for food, and let's go catch a new movie that everyone wants to see. And that wasn't, like you said before, it was the experience of going out. It was everything else that kind of went around it. But I'm now kind of in that boat where it's like, I don't want to take my kids to go see some schlocky kids movie. Like, I did not want to go take him to see the Sonic movie, but it was kind of at this time where my wife was gone, and I had to do something with the kids, so I kind of gave in, and it was, trust me, like we've said, it was better than I thought it was going to be. But normally, if it hadn't been the perfect scenario to kind of get me to go there, I wouldn't have taken my kids. I would have waited and purchased it at home, because it would have cost me less to do that than it would be to pay for tickets for all three of us that went.
Yep.
And then if I don't like it, I don't have to watch it again, but if the kids like it, they can watch it as much as they want. So I think there also is to this equation that element of where people are at in their lives.
Yeah, totally. And that plays into cost too. I mean, when I go anywhere now, you have to factor in the cost of a babysitter. And you have to think, how long can I go? Can I go out to eat first? No, I don't want to, because then I got to pay the babysitter an extra, $8-9 or whatever, this 14-year-old punk kid who's not going to do anything. And so there's other factors at play for me. So for me to go see a movie, it's like sometimes can be like $60. If I go see a nice movie and we're going to Alamo Draft House and we're eating the good food, we're talking $60-70 by the end of the night, when I can rent it at home for $20 and order takeout,
Right.
So I think AMC, I think the conclusion for me is AMC is right to be scared. They were stupid for what they said. I think all movie theaters are probably partially scared. And I think movie studios need to take a hard look at this, figure out who their audience is, and maybe selectively choose some movies to release simultaneously and just see what works.
I think $60 is cheap. If you're doing like a date night. I was thinking about that. Like, Brady and I went a while back ago.
That's a lot, man.
And we did dinner, and like dinner was like $40. Like, we didn't go crazy, but it was like $40. And then the film was like another, little $20-22 something. And then Brita always gets popcorn and a drink. Always.
Right.
And so you add that onto it, and then it was like, $70. And then we had to pay our babysitter. And because of the time we were out there, like, it was getting close to like $100. I'm like, this is an expensive date night for just, Chili's and a movie.
Yeah.
So I do think, there's the economy of that gets included. And I think you're right that we may see more of targeted movies for certain things. Like, I don't think you're going to see the big blockbusters. Like, I don't think you're going to see an MCU movie that's going to do this because they want people to go there.
Well, I want to go there too, right?
Sure,
those
me
movies
too.
that we're going to make it happen for. Big releases, that new Ghostbusters movie, whenever it gets to come out, Top Gun, like those big ones, I want to see them in the theater. But some of these other ones, I'm just saying.
When they do the old Hercules live action,
I would rather watch that at home.
I would rather watch that at home too, and I would pay the money to do that rental probably.
Yep.
And the reality is, like, if they're only going to maybe make, let's say, $80 million in the theaters, but they could simultaneously do that, and maybe the theater money would come down, but they can make $100 million off of people staying at home and watching it with their families. I mean, there's things to think about there if you're on the studio side, for sure.
Oh yeah.
So, Matt, I want this to be the question of the week, because I've been thinking about this ever since we saw this, and then I've kind of seen this thing kind of creeping up in the news. Do you think we will ever get to a point when all movies will be available at the time that they release in theater, or maybe even replace theater? And if so, if we ever do get to that point, how long from now will that be? Like, how long will it take to get to that point for society to shift enough? Because we do see these technological shifts where we used to do things one way, and now we don't anymore, and we do it this completely new way.
Right. Yes, 10 years.
10 years? You think it'll be that long?
Yeah, I do. I think it's a yes. We'll see these things happen simultaneously, but it'll be 10 years.
I think we're going to see it, but I think it's going to take half that time. I think it's going to take 5 years. And the only reason I think that it's going to be even quicker is because so many people are so used to things like Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus streaming in their homes, and people that have cable can already rent movies really quickly. This video on demand rental thing, I think, is just the next logical step for a lot of these companies, and I think it's not going to take a lot to implement that into their ecosystems that they already have established. And so I think it'll be really, really easy to implement that. I think it could be quicker. I'm saying 5 years.
It certainly could be. I just imagine there's holdouts. That's my thing.
Sure.
I think there's going to be holdouts that are going to wait a little bit longer, or franchises like Marvel,
Star Wars,
that would want to hold out. But we'll see.
Who knows? But Super Friends, we want to hear from you. We want your opinions on this. Do you think that the video on demand will ever get to a point where we're releasing brand new movies at home at the same time as the movie theaters? And if so, how long from now until that becomes a real thing? Let us know all the normal places. Get us on the email, fortofnerd@gmail.com. Get us on Twitter @fortofnerd. Get us on Facebook, facebook.com/fortofnerd. Instagram, fortofnerd. We got a voicemail number, a Google number you can call, 801-477-7687, and let us know there. And we will talk about your answers next week when we roll back around here in the Fortress of Nerditude and do this once again.
Right on.
Matt, I'm looking forward to this next week. I think there's some good things on the horizon. I'm excited to see kind of how things are going to start shaking out in the world, and if we're going to start getting back to a semi-quasi sort of normal, or if we're just going to be more of the same for like the next, 4 months. Who knows?
Yeah. Yep.
But we'll talk about all that and stuff in nerd and pop culture next week.
Beautiful.
All of us here at the Fortress of Nerditude, to all of you out there, wherever you may be, may the Force be with you, always.